I don't even know where to begin. Let's just get here's your first softball for you. What are your initial thoughts as you watched the 95-minute debate last night?
Well, Hillary Clinton has won the first debate. You got to give it to her. She was well prepared. She organized. She was, most importantly, I thought, kept her composure. Now, let me side note that by saying that's not saying much because she didn't have to go. It didn't take a lot for her to improve. She's not the greatest in front of the microphone or on the stage, but I got to imagine that the game plan that she and her team laid out, that she followed it to a T, and she ended up successfully baiting Trump into problems in the second half of the debate in particular. As for Trump, there were a huge amount of missed opportunities. I mean, he could have spent more time, he didn't spend any at all on the trust issue, certainly on the FBI investigation, had opportunities to hammer that home later in the debate. For Trump, it clearly showed that when you don't prepare for a debate, it is going to ultimately come back to bite you. And the irony about his comments about her health and stamina, frankly, it looked like Trump ran out of gas the second half of the debate, because I thought he was doing pretty well in the first half hour at least. But then when you're not prepared, and the other person is, McGraw, you end up in that no man's land or that abyss, and with no place to go. And I think that's where Trump ended up for those last 45 minutes of the debate, and it caused him to be very defensive, and it caused him to kind of stumble a little bit and not have coherent sentences. So debate one goes to her for sure.
It's interesting you say that, because this is a pattern with Trump, and this is what we saw with all of the Republican debates. He would come out, he would hold his own maybe the first round or so, and then he would go away and sort of let the others hash out all of the policy debates. And then at the end, his 3 or 4 comments would carry the day, because we like to see nice and shiny things in the media. Very similar to what we saw last night from him.
Well, I would say similar to the point that he was able to have more success doing that when you had 10 people on stage. This was a first for him, and clearly she has more experience doing debates than he does, and it showed last night, because when it's just 2 people up there, he can't run and hide like you just mentioned. He can't kind of go away and then let all the others talk. He's got to stay engaged and stay involved, and your margin for mistakes is a lot smaller, and he just made too many of them. I do think it was a lack of preparation. I do think it was because he was a little surprised or caught off guard by the fact that she was so composed and was so organized and prepared. He's got a lot of work to do. But most importantly, and maybe this is a segue into your question about where we go from here, how does this influence the race? And, we've talked about it, McGraw. There really are very few, if any, undecideds left in this race, and I don't think last night's debate's really going to influence those very few. It comes down to those Republicans and Democrats that don't like their nominee, are considering staying home, and were looking for a reason to go vote, who got to their voters better than last night. And I would say that Hillary Clinton probably reached hers more than Donald Trump reached his.
Yeah, what do you make of the talk of him sniffling, which was obsessive, his faces, his smirks, his smiles, she didn't do any of that. He was all over the place. A lot of people are criticizing for that. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's important. That's the split screen certainly doesn't help him in terms of the optics. But again, this is the interesting thing about what impact this has on the election. His core voters, the masses, that got him to this point, particularly many of the white males that did not go to college, that he has a huge following with, they're going to love his performance last night. They're going to love the sneers and the snorts and the facial expressions. But again, there are so many Republicans that are being left on the table right now, ones that don't like him, that are considering staying home or maybe voting third party, but are just looking for one thing, one shiny moment of his that shows that he could have the temperament so that they can go vote because they despise her more. And I don't think he gave it to him last night at all. I think, sure, he made his base happy by acting like a buffoon towards the end of the debate, but he certainly didn't help himself with the voters he needs to get out.
Of all the criticism, of all the everything, I am shocked that no one's picked up on the first strike policy question, in which he basically said he would never launch a nuclear weapon first, but yet doesn't want to take anything off the table. He answered it, both ways on what probably is the most important question when it comes to a president who doesn't have any checks and balances when it comes to foreign policy.
McGraw, he doesn't know what first strike means, and it was very clear. And that is what I mean about the lack of preparation. Just crushed him last night on that front, because he was in that no man's land abyss. He was treading water, trying to stay above. And he did not know how to answer that question, wasn't comfortable answering it because he wasn't prepared and because he truly does not know what that is all about and what's involved with it. So what we saw last night were the true colors of a candidate that has certainly created a movement, has certainly tapped into an anger and an emotion that exists in this country, but is someone that's not ready to be president, and someone who, frankly, in my opinion, after watching last night, I don't even think he really wants it that badly, to be quite honest with you.
Trey Harden, ABC News political analyst, thanks for checking in on a busy morning with us.
You got it, buddy. Take care.
626, Big 550, KTRS. Willie, do you have that clip of the first strike capability? Do you have that clip? Can we play it right now? Let's do this. Let's play that clip, the one we were just referencing to with Trey Harden, and you can make your own minds. It is 626 here, Big 550, KTRS.
Question as we enter our last segment here still on the subject of securing America on nuclear weapons. President Obama reportedly considered changing the nation's longstanding policy on first use. Do you support the current policy? Mr. Trump, you have 2 minutes on that.
Well, I have to say that, for what Secretary Clinton was saying about nuclear with Russia, she's very cavalier in the way she talks about various countries. But Russia's been expanding. They have a much newer capability than we do. We have not been updating from the new standpoint. I looked the other night, I was seeing B-52s. They're old enough that your father, your grandfather could be flying them. We are not keeping up with other countries. I would like everybody to end it, just get rid of it. But I would certainly not do first strike. I think that once the nuclear alternative happens,
unedited?
It's over. At the same time, we have to be prepared. I can't take anything off the table.
That was me in rehearsal being taped over the listening to it before the show, where I asked, was that unedited? Yes, that was an unedited version of that clip. 626.